Welcome, fellow readers. Thank you for joining us today. I am so excited to introduce you to Joel Rosenberg. He is the writer of many action-adventure books, and I have enjoyed every one of them. I hope you did too. We will be talking about his newest book, The Libyan Diversion, and we'll get started on that. Thank you for joining us today, Joel.
Chris, great to be with you from Jerusalem, no less.
Awesome. That's on my bucket list, man.
Please come over and join us. Yes.
So let me start with, tell us a little bit about the Libyan Diversion.
Well, the Libyan Diversion is the fifth in the Marcus Riker series. You don't have to have read the past ones. I've tried to create each of these political thrillers such that if you just have never heard of me, you've never heard of the books, or you just decide to jump in with this one, you'll be fine. Now, I would encourage you to double back. The first one was called The Kremlin Conspiracy, which I should add, Chris, I wrote about 4 or 5 years ago, and it's about Marcus Riker. Marcus is a former Marine. He's a former U.S. Secret Service agent, worked on the elite presidential protective detail. Tragedy befalls him in his life. He resigns from government and just trying to clear his head and go through depression. That's from the first book. But he gets dragged back against his will into government service. Now, in the first book, The Kremlin Conspiracy, the reason it's important to know in this context is because the situation he finds himself in is that he gets asked to be part of a security detail for an American senator who wants to run for president. But what happens is they go to Moscow and they discover a Russian dictator is trying to decide whether to invade Ukraine or the Baltic states, Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, which are NATO countries, and suddenly the United States, NATO, and Russia are on the verge of a major war, the biggest war, land war in Europe since World War II. Now, that was all written years before Vladimir Putin decided to actually invade Ukraine. I'm not going to give the Kremlin conspiracy away, but that's how we meet Marcus Riker. So by the time we get up to the Libyan Diversion, Marcus has been appointed now by the President of the United States to be the head of a CIA task force to hunt down the world's most wanted terrorist, a guy named Abu Nakba. Nakba is an Arabic word. It means catastrophe. And on May 14th, the Palestinians will be celebrating Nakba Day, literally just in a few days from now. Why? Because in 1948, when Israel declared independence, the Arab world saw that as a catastrophe and decided to invade and try to kill us all. So that being said, Abu Nakba, it's his nom de guerre, his war name, and Marcus is assigned to hunt him down for all the things that have happened in the previous books. All that to say, in the Libyan Diversion, Abu Nakba sets up a trap, a diversion to discredit Marcus with the White House, with the president, with the National Security Advisor, with the CIA, and sort of get him completely out of position so that this terrorist organization can sneak terrorist and dirty nuclear bombs inside the United States via Mexico. And that's the setup. Can Marcus regain not only his credibility in Washington, but get back to the United States in enough time to figure out how to stop this horrific plot? And that's the setup of the Libyan Diversion.
And now we're all running off and getting our book and finishing it. So
I hope so.
It was very good. I read it in a weekend. It was one of those, and your books have that effect on people that they're not put downable because you have to know. So I got to ask, Marcus has been one of my favorite characters.
Thank you.
This is, I think, the longest, no, not the longest. You did another 5-book series, didn't you? So how much longer do we have Marcus? Is he retiring soon?
Well, I don't want to give it away. I want, first of all, I haven't decided. And second of all, I mean, honestly, I love Marcus. I do. For me, Marcus has become the character that I most love. And I think in part, well, there's several elements. First, my previous series, which I loved, there was it was a New York Times foreign correspondent named G. Collins who was sneaking into Syria in the first book, which was called The Third Target. He wanted to get an interview with the head of ISIS. ISIS was barely a thing when I wrote it, and then it became a huge thing, as the book released. And anyway, but I only did 3 novels with J.B. Collins. I loved him as a character, but I don't think most readers think that a foreign correspondent for a major mainstream newspaper is the person they want to identify with, right? We, for better or for worse, we identify with our characters, and this guy didn't have actual. He wasn't James Bond, he wasn't Jason Bourne, he wasn't Jack Ryan, but he did I guess his name did start with J, so I guess that was something. But I thought, he is a spy, because a foreign correspondent for a major newspaper is essentially doing intelligence work. It's just open source. His intelligence reports wind up on the front pages of the New York Times rather than in a secret file, top secret, in the CIA system or maybe in the White House. But that made him interesting to me, because I wanted to sort of flip the genre and have an intelligence operative that was operating openly. And rather than using a gun, his only defense was, "You horrible criminal who would like to chop my head off, wouldn't you rather have your story be seen by millions of people? Like, don't you have something you want to say? Like, you can kill me, but there's other people you could kill." And so living out in the open was his main defense. But that's not a long-term strategy for a franchise character, right? You need skill sets. And so I decided, when I created Marcus Riker, I only knew 2 things, Chris. I took a yellow pad of paper and I wrote down 2 things. First, he's going to be a former Marine. Actually, I don't know if you're ever a former Marine. Once a Marine, you're always a Marine. But he's a Marine who's not active duty, and he's former Secret Service, so he has the skills that you'd expect. But he's not an assassin. Okay? He's not 007 with a license to kill. He's not Jason Bourne. He's not, Vince Flynn's main character, who was also an assassin, Mitch Rapp. No, his main skill set and his personality is that he's a protector. Okay, so that was item 1. But item 2 was, he's deeply wounded, that his wife and only son have been murdered, and he's living the grief and the guilt that he spent his entire professional life trying to protect the United States and its leaders, only to fail to be able to protect the people that he loves most. And this is a disconnect in his heart, in his soul, that he's having a hard time processing. So that's the setup, and that's why I found in Marcus a character that, it's definitely not me. Let's just be clear, in case you're going there to ask me. He's not me, but I think he's got enough depth in him and substance to run for a long time. And he's very different. I personally have not found a character I haven't read every political thriller that's out there, but most people are hunters. And in this period of his life, in the Libyan Diversion, Marcus has been assigned to hunt Abu Nakba and his Kairos terrorist organization, but it's not his main skill set, and it's this tension, and also how can he get on with his life? What is getting on? He feels guilty about, it was his high school sweetheart that he was married to. Now she's gone. The Bible says you're not married anymore, right? Until death do us part. We say that, but I mean, that's my worst fear in life, is losing my college sweetheart, who I've been married to for 32, almost 33 years. Marcus is like, yeah, she's gone, but in my head, in my mind, I made an eternal commitment to her. Am I going to be alone for the next 50 years of my life, 40, 50 years? So all of these elements are woven throughout the series, and up to and including the Libyan Diversion.
And I think you've made that statement of, Marcus wanted, he's us. You know, we're all that way. We want to take care of our loved ones. And like you said, your worst nightmare, I think it's all of ours, you know, as a parent losing a child or your spouse. Yeah, and I think that's why Marcus has been so relatable. I just feel so bad for him getting beat up all the time.
Well, he certainly gives as good as he gets, but you're right. In the Beirut Protocol, by the way, I just want to say cheers from the Marcus mug, the CIA mug.
I love it.
In the Beirut Protocol, he's doing an advanced trip as the U.S. Secretary of State is going to arrive in Israel. He's doing an advanced trip with a colleague, an American colleague and an Israeli colleague, up along the Israeli-Lebanon border when there's suddenly an attack by the Hezbollah terrorist group. They get in a massive firefight, but in the end, there's a terror tunnel coming from Lebanon that neither he nor the Israelis know about, and they get captured, he and his two colleagues, and dragged deep behind enemy lines as a massive missile war erupts on the surface. This is another moment where, yeah, I mean, he's brutalized, and his colleagues are brutalized, tortured terribly. And one of the reasons I did that is because in the first three books, Chris, I had created these skill sets, right? He's really smart and he's really well trained to protect and to kill if he has to. And even though he was sort of out of favor with the U.S. government for a while and with himself, each operation that he is involved with actually is messy but successful. And so he's rising rapidly inside the agency. He's emerging as the most important and effective clandestine officer in the entire Central Intelligence Agency. But now, in the Beirut Protocol, I've created a world in which all his skill sets are knocked out because he's been captured and held hostage. And even if he can get out, like, even if, you know, and the audience, the reader's going, well, there's no way to get out, right? So but even if he could, his colleagues are wounded more badly than him. Will they be able to run with him? Can he, you know, maybe it's a suicide mission to try to break out. So anyway, so in Beirut Protocol, the last novel, I basically knocked out all of the skill sets that I'd set up in the first three books. In this one, he's not been captured, but his credibility has been knocked out. So now, because of this diversion, because it seems like it seems like he's found this compound where Abu Nakba and his top leadership are based in Libya. I'm not giving anything away. It's the title of the book, The Libyan Diversion. But when the dust clears, CNN and all the other major networks break the news that actually it was a school and there are dead children everywhere. And Marcus is thinking, how is that possible? How could I have gotten the intelligence that bad? And is that true? Is that itself fake news? What is going on? But what it does brilliantly, I mean, wicked brilliance, evil genius by Abu Nakba, is take Abu Nakba's main adversary out of the picture. Now, nobody in Washington at the senior leadership level, and now in the media, now in the world, now in Congress, nobody believes him. Now he's a disaster, a radioactive in a sense. And so what I'm trying to do is figure out how to take Marcus and put him in worst case scenarios to see how is he going to respond. You know, when we're tested, our character comes out, and we don't always look good. That's what a test is, right? Our kids go through school, they get a pop quiz, they come home not so good. Okay, that's because a pop quiz tests you on what you know and what you're capable of and how you deal with pressure. And then hopefully you learn from your mistakes and you get another chance. And so this is really what I'm doing with Marcus in the Libyan Diversion. But the question becomes, yeah, I totally agree with you. I'll also say this, Chris, I don't want any of my readers to ever think that any of my characters that they love will survive. This is this is not just a game. This is life, especially if you're in this business. And it's a very, very dangerous business. Not in the movies, right? You never believe that Tom Cruise isn't going to make it through another Mission Impossible. It's fun to watch him do what he does, but he barely has any blood on him. Like And so, yeah, they're great movies. Don't get me wrong. I think every Mission Impossible movie is better than the last, which is hard to say about most sequels. But that's the challenge. Is I don't believe that's that's not the real life. That's not the real world. And so I can only tell you. I won't give the specifics away because it'll be spoilers from previous books. But my wife sometimes will read the manuscript before it's published, and she's like, "What? Why you can't kill that character, Joel?" I'm like, why? They're fictional. I know, but I love that character. But bad things happen in real life to real people. I mean, so I'm going on and on, but so that's a very long, and I apologize if saying this, will Marcus Riker make it and into another book? I can't say.
Okay. So, and then while you're talking, which this was all fascinating. Please don't feel like you're babbling on. I love this, and it puts your books in a completely different light, which I really like. But it makes me afraid of reading it because I'm afraid of loving somebody in your characters, and then you're going to kill them off. So, but it does make for good reading. It makes for excellent reading. So,
well, you don't want to be too mean to the audience, but I will say, anybody that's read my all these other 16 books knows even a main character once didn't make it. Yep. Certainly some major sub characters, supporting characters haven't made it. And I'm not trying to be mean, but I'm not sure what I'm trying to do. No,
you're doing real life.
Well, I know, but people don't really want real life. I mean, and so this is the challenge, right. Chris. When you're a novelist, your main job is, to be novel, to be new, to have twists and turns that people don't expect. So that's one thing people do expect, is that they want the unexpected. So, okay, that's good. But they want to be entertained. The main reason a person picks up a novel is to enter a world that they're never going to be part of. Like, if they wanted their daily life, they have it. And that's what they're looking for, is an escape from daily life. And some people are looking for escape into a love story that's better than their own, or just seems fun and whatever. But I don't know how to write Pride and Prejudice. Okay, it's not my skill set. Okay, so I blow people up and blow things up like that. That's what I do fictionally, just for the record. Yeah. But the key is to entertain, because if people can have heartache, right? I mean, Titanic was the biggest movie of all time. I don't think it still is, but we all know the ship's going down. We all know that every character, even people you love, are not going to make it. People are okay with that if you've taken them on a journey that is somehow emotionally satisfying, even if it's not if it's not the happy ending they want, or there's twists. Now, clearly, I'm also trying to warn and educate. But if you don't do the entertainment right, if I can't keep you up till 2, 3, 4 in the morning with short, intense chapters going, wow, it's super late, but maybe just one more. Oh, this is a short one. Just one more. Just one more. Where now it's 6 in the morning and you're tweeting at me with curses saying, how dare you? I've got to go to work. I've got to go to school. I've got to get the kids ready. I have no energy. And you trapped me. You kept me all night. Then I love those tweets. I love those text messages, those emails, those Facebook posts, because it means I'm doing my job, and I love that. But that's not the only thing I want to do. And I will say, as an evangelical, there's another element here, which is once, because of my values, I don't put the sexuality, that content in. Or there's romance, there's clearly relationships, but there's not this type of graphic sexuality that in a lot of political thrillers would be, and there's not the hard, intense, obscene language. Those are things that many political thriller writers or novel readers